every now and then there are decisions made that are truly baffling. And that was made very clear to me on Saturday when more than 3,000 Victorians marched on Parliament House in Spring Street to protest against the Israeli Supreme Court's decision to evict Palestinians from their homes in Sheikh Jarrah. Now that's a neighbourhood of East Jerusalem and an annexed part of Israel under international law, and it's also a part of the Palestinian territories. But before I go on, I need to make it very clear. The Informer is neither pro-Israeli nor is it pro-Palestinian, nor do we have any political allegiance to any group or political cause. As a news organisation, we base our stance on our independence and a commitment to honest reporting, which makes this particular editorial absolutely critical. This is not about examining the alleged dehumanising of Palestinians, nor is it about Israel's right to defend itself against Palestinian aggression. It's neither. The Palestinian-Israeli conflict won't be resolved through any stories that are written or words uttered by the Informer. Because to bring about dramatic change in a conflict that has raged since 1948, when Israel was first established, it will require a concerted bipartisan effort from all sides. And it will need to see all the parties really commit to an answer through the delivery of peace, rather through any conflict delivered by a number of agendas. Now, in this editorial, I want to shine a bit of a light on an entirely different issue. It's an issue that requires serious examination and explanation by the editors of our major media outlets. And it's not only about how they got it so wrong on the weekend, but how they failed a basic premise of journalism. At The Informer, we're keen to understand why a major protest like the one that took place in Melbourne failed to attract little or any attention from mainstream media. It appears that not one media outlet sought to or even thought that it was a protest worth covering. How can that be? And why? From reliable sources who attended the protest, we well understand that neither of the dailies, nor radio or any of the television networks sent journalists or camera crews to cover what should have been seen as a major developing story in Melbourne. Why is that? When, according to a number of trusted sources that we know, they found it quite extraordinary that a protest so visually compelling would attract virtually no media interest, at least none that was visible. Now, if that was indeed the case, why then did they fail to cover an event of such significance? A protest that drew more than 3,000 Victorians from their homes to protest on a cold and miserable day about a cause that they felt really passionate about and had been moved to take action. How is it that the news editors could possibly deem it of no significance? Think of it. 3,000 Victorians protested. They took to the streets, and no one thought it was important. Regardless of what side of the debate you're on, the story is very real, especially where passions run high. So why did the protest seemingly not attract any media attention? A conflict that has raged for more than 70 years surely has not been lost on the news editors. So what was the real problem? If, as it appears to me, that there was no coverage of the protest, news editors could well argue that there were bigger stories on the day that took precedence. I've got to ask though, is that really the case? And which stories were they? How is it that a global issue that threatens to erupt again and again and jeopardise innocent lives, as it has done so many times in the past, can be viewed as irrelevant? Last year, you may remember when Australians turned out to support the Black Lives Matter protests over the death of George Floyd. They drew significant coverage in Australia. The protesting crowds were greater, yes, but the matter no less important. And as we are to believe, the deaths of innocent Israelis and Palestinians are not as important as those of George Floyd or any other black African American who has died at the hands of overzealous police. That can't be the case. No. The answer is no, they're not. Israeli and Palestinian lives, like all other lives, matter a great deal. But on this occasion, did the major media outlets believe that to be the case? If, as it appears, the media did fail to cover the 3,000 strong protest, what was the real reason? It may be that there was something else that caused serious news organisations to behave like they did. What that excuse may be, though, is something that you will have to decide for yourself.